After Patrice Bergeron announced his retirement last week, the Bruins not only had a vacancy in their top line center role, but also a vacant C as they look to fill the captain role for the upcoming season and beyond. Who will be the next captain of the Boston Bruins? Let's talk about it on a brand new episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked B. Quick reminder that if you go to your favorite podcast app and YouTube and search up Locked On Boston Bruins, you can find the subscribe button there. Just smash that thing, and each new episode will be automatically added to your feeds for you to download, listen, and enjoy. Free and available on every app, and we are an everyday podcast with a caveat that through the month of August, we're doing 3 episodes per week, so you can expect fresh pods every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It is a holiday up here on Monday, so I might do Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday next week. If you're on social media, you can find the podcast on X, Twitter, and Instagram at Locked NHL Bruins. You can find me, my dad jokes, hockey thoughts, at Ian C. McLaren on both those platforms, as well as Threads and jumping on Blue Sky these days as well. Okay, still not quite over Patrice Bergeron's retirement. He not only ends his legendary career with the Boston Bruins, but he also vacates the captaincy role that he held for 3 seasons. Now, unfortunately, the hope was that he would lift the Stanley Cup as captain of the Bruins. And that was a very real possibility after they had this historic regular season. What we're going to remember, though, is early playoff exits, teary hugs and goodbyes, especially the one with Brad Marchand at the end of the Florida Panthers series, and passing the mantle to whoever comes next. Bergeron was captain for 3 seasons, played very well in those 3 seasons, and not that his legacy would have been different if he had not been captain, but having that C for those 3 seasons really cements him in kind of the upper echelon of Bruins lore and history. If we look back at the captaincy, he joins a list of franchise legends. Apologies for noise in the background. We have someone doing some work on our home today. So if you hear that in the background, that's what that is. Anyways, Bergeron, of course, was preceded by Zdeno Chara. And Chara really helped to create the culture that the Bruins have in place today. It was a culture that is welcoming, affirming, respectful of players of all statuses. Whether you're a rookie or nearing your last game, you're on equal ground in the Bruins locker room. Chara was captain from 2006 until 2020, led the Bruins to 3 Stanley Cup finals, and of course, lifted the cup higher than it's ever been back in 2011. Before Chara, we had Joe Thornton as captain for 3 seasons. I really thought that he was going to be a guy who entered that pantheon of Bruins legends. I was so pumped when he was drafted first overall. He was my favorite player for the Bruins early in the 2000s. And when they re-signed him coming out of the lockout, I was just so pumped that he was going to be a Bruin for a long time. Several months later, unceremoniously dumped to the San Jose Sharks, went on to win the Hart Trophy and have a very solid career, borderline Hall of Fame career. And I dreamt of Thornton, Bergeron being the Boston's top two centers for, as long as Bergeron and Krejci were the top two centers. Of course, it worked out in the end. Bruins got Savard, Mark Savard, Zdeno Chara. But still, Thornton, shorter than expected tenure as Bruins captain. Before him, a one-year stint for Jason Allison, who served as kind of a buffer between Thornton and Ray Bourque before him. Bourque had a long tenure as captain, 86 until 2000. Another guy who, like Bergeron, was not able to cap his Bruins career with a cup. He, of course, won that with Colorado. Prior to Bourque, this is going back to very early in my lifetime. You had Rick Middleton in there, Terry O'Reilly, Wayne Cashman, and then Johnny Busick. That's going back to, the early 70s. So a long lineage of strong leaders in Boston. And it begs the question as who will be next to don the C, take up that mantle of leadership and keep that positive, welcoming, winning culture going here in Boston. And we're going to talk about who ex-Bruins head coach Bruce Cassidy thinks should be the captain coming up here after the break. Today's episode is brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Major League Baseball. And you can take your first swing at betting on MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets. That's up to $200. So if you bet $20, you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you can spend betting everything from money lines to over-under to who you think is going to get the first home run. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on Major League Baseball than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Sign up today by visiting FanDuel.com/lockedon. Get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel is the official partner of Major League Baseball. Thank you so much once again for making Locked On Bruins part of your day every single day. Again, 3 days a week through the month of August, leading into training camp. And over the summer, we're going to be looking at other teams around the division to see where the Bruins stack up amongst them beginning next week. And now we continue our conversation on who should be the next captain of the Boston Bruins, and former Bruins head coach Bruce Cassidy thinks it should be Brad Marchand. He believes he has what it takes to succeed Patrice Bergeron as the team's next captain. He was speaking on the Cam and Strick podcast, and he said, quote, "Not that many guys are the perfect mix of everything. I think Bergeron was good at that. He led by example. He was still the hardest worker in practice. Off ice, he made sure everyone felt welcome and set some of those rules that Zdeno Chara had put in place. Brad will be a great leader in terms of leading by example, will to win, been there, done it." Now, Chara, I mentioned, had some pretty strict locker room rules and kind of the mentality that he brought into the locker room was making sure everybody felt welcome, not distinguishing between rookies and veterans, everybody on equal ground. He made sure that he led by example. He made sure that everybody had each other's backs, that they played as a team, played as a unit, put the team first, and just having that will to win, professional attitude, and obviously it paid off because he was the captain of a Stanley Cup winning club. Now, Marchand is now the longest tenured Bruin. He's 35, worn the spoke to be since 2009, 2010, 372 goals, 862 points in 947 games, top 10 in franchise history in all three of those categories. He won the Cup in 2011. He's the leader in playoff goals, points, and games played, active leader. And, Marchand was coached by Cassidy for 6 seasons before Cassidy was punted last June. He won a Stanley Cup with Vegas, and obviously Marchand's respect. He has Cassidy respects Marchand's game. Now, Cassidy admitted the Bruins have plenty of great choices, and they may want to go younger by giving the C to Charlie McAvoy or David Pastrnak. But he said if the Bruins end up tapping Marchand for the job, he will have to learn to deal with the younger players. That's one thing that will be important. He's got high expectations of everybody. Cassidy said that's just the way he is. There's nothing wrong with that. But how he communicates with those guys will probably be his biggest challenge if he's the guy. Which is an interesting comment. And we'll see kind of, the fact that Bruce Cassidy was let go by the Bruins in part because of his not failure, but challenges in commuting with younger players. Interesting comment from Cassidy there, perhaps kind of projecting what was his downfall in Boston. Now, Brad Marchand is a fantastic choice for captain of the next Boston Bruins. And that's not something that we would have said 5 years ago, certainly not 10 years ago. Nobody would have envisioned him becoming one of the Bruins greats and not only succeeding on the ice, but becoming a leader off the ice as well. Yes, he has a track record of supplemental discipline. He has some rough edges to his game, but he has also grown into one of the game's best wingers at both ends of the ice, and really did step up as a leader for the Bruins in the series against the Panthers with Bergeron and David Krejci both out with injuries. And the Bruins went 3-1 to begin that series with Bergeron off the ice. Now, of course, that's not to say they were better off with Bergeron out of the lineup, but that's a testament to Marchand stepping up and the guys being willing to follow him into battle. There could be, the optics of having a guy who has been suspended so often being the captain of your organization, and he is 35 years old, so perhaps they want to bestow the mantle on someone with a longer career ahead of them, longer tenure ahead of them as Bruins. Although that doesn't matter, as we saw in the case of Joe Thornton, who was dumped after signing a contract extension, and when we all thought he had a long tenure as captain ahead of him. Marchand, I think, would be a good choice. It's weird to say that he might be the safe choice, but it would be a way of it'll be similar to Bergeron, right? He'll probably only be captain for a few years unless he plays into his 40s, which is very possible. He's got those new hips and still playing at a very high level. Or do the Bruins look a bit younger and give the captaincy to one of these kind of next wave cornerstone players. And we're going to discuss some of the other options here after the break. So who should be the next captain of the Boston Bruins? Brad Marchand is a strong candidate. He got the endorsement from ex-Bruins head coach Bruce Cassidy, and a very natural successor as the longest tenured Bruin and a core guy who's been here for many years and has been through all the ups and downs with the Boston Bruins. The next obvious choice, I think, is Charlie McAvoy. Now, McAvoy is young, 25 years old, but he's under contract through the 2019-30 season. And he had some really cool things to say after Bergeron announced his retirement. In that Twitter video, McAvoy said, "What you've built here is special. Quote, I promise I'll do everything I can to take care of it. I love you. I know we'll be friends forever. I wish you the best of luck." That one part stood out. I promise I'll do everything I can to take care of it. That's some pretty captain-like talk right there. And Bergeron said it meant a lot to him. A lot of guys that have built that culture. It's how they want things to be around the locker room, being inclusive. And it's not just with the players, but everyone surrounding the team. So my endorsement goes to Charlie McAvoy. I think you could make a case for David Pastrnak. You could make a case for Charlie Coyle. But Charlie McAvoy, I think, is the guy because of his contract, because he is arguably the best player on the Boston Bruins at the moment. You could make a case for David Pastrnak, but I think Pastrnak is better served kind of in that supporting role, being able to focus on being the best offensive player for the Bruins without the burden of having to take on that leadership role. It's not always just the highest score on your team that deserves to be the captain. It's someone who's fit for the role, not to take anything away from David Pasternak's leadership example, but I think he's best served maybe wearing an A and going out there, doing his thing offensively without that added burden. McAvoy already carrying a heavy load on the back end, one of the best defensemen in the NHL. And while I do think Marchand could be a great captain for the Bruins, I think it's kind of in the centennial season. You're moving into a new era of Bruins hockey. It's fitting to give it to McAvoy, who's a bit younger, 10 years younger, and who will be kind of the foundation for the next 7 seasons plus. Hopefully he sticks around for a lot longer than that. He's on track to challenge for the Norris Trophy every year. He has soaked in so much from both Chara and Bergeron over the years. And again, no disrespect to Marchand. I think if he is chosen as the captain, there's no wrong choice here. Marchand is a leader on this team, regardless. He has learned from Bergeron. He's been his wingman. I think he would be a great choice. He would push the guys to be their best. But perhaps what Cassidy was saying, there's some merit to that. McAvoy, as a younger guy, a core guy, can relate to those younger guys a bit more and bring out the best in them as well. So, dark horse choices, Charlie Coyle would be in there probably. I think Brandon Carlo is a dark horse choice. He's a very solid guy on and off the ice. But at the end of the day, I think it will come down to Marchand or McAvoy. I would not be surprised at all if it's Marchand and then McAvoy after Marchand retires. But I would go with McAvoy just to kind of kick in that official next era of Boston Bruins hockey. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments in the YouTube channel, on social media at Locked NHL Bruins or at Ian C. McLaren. Let me know who you think should be the next captain of the Boston Bruins. Again, my final word, Marchand, McAvoy, both worthy candidates. Don't put that extra pressure on Pastrnak. Coyle, Carlo, kind of B-level guys who will wear the A from time to time, but it'll come down to Marchand, McAvoy. There's no wrong choice there. I'd go with either one, but it all depends whether or not the Bruins want to signal a new era of Bruins hockey as the centennial comes and goes, or if they want to continue to build on the culture they've built up here. And the next logical progression there would be to hand it to the longest tenured Bruin and a top 10 guy in scoring, playoff success, and give it to Marchand. So either way, I'm happy with Marchand or McAvoy. Let me know what you think in the comments, and we'll see when there's an announcement. Probably not till training camp, I would think, at this point. All right, that's it, my friends. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this brand new episode of Locked On Boston Bruins. Please do smash that subscribe button so that you never miss a thing. And we'll talk to you again here on the next episode next week. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Have a great weekend. And thanks for listening.